Welcome to another week of the Watson Weekend. It sounds a little better that way. How you doing, Jess?
I'm doing well. You know, I'm on lice watch in the Lasesky house, just saying. So got that dreaded email, but we're here. We are going
Ouch. Is that why your hair's up in a bun today? I noticed you're like in serious mode.
power bun. Yes. It's also hopefully going to suffocate whatever we think.
Keeps the lice out. That's what I hear.
Keep them out. Probably TMI for this group. But yes, we are here. We are so excited to bring the show. We have got an amazing guest. We have got also a packed agenda with the headline hangover. We've got breaking down Thrasio. And then I know you and Aaron have got something in store for we've got a lot of listeners ready and waiting.
100%. Well, usually we don't have any listeners, so I think that's a step up.
Yes.
But let's get started with interesting facts about today. So our producer prepares these for me. 1961, U.S. President JFK establishes the Peace Corps.
Thank you.
It's like the last thing any president did to help the world.
Help the world, yeah.
Exactly. 1973, Harvest and Capitol Records released Pink Floyd's 8th album, The Dark Side of the Moon. It did pretty well.
Yes.
It was on the Billboard 200 for 14 years.
50 million copies worldwide sold.
Amazing.
And lots of interesting tricks that you're supposed to do when you listen to Dark Side of the Moon, right?
Tricks is one way to put it. I think it involves black lights.
Black lights and maybe some hallucinogenics.
Exactly. 2020. It's a little dark day. First known COVID-19 case identified in New York City.
Yeah, that was dicey. It's not that long ago. I wonder what the history books will write about it. So many things.
Well, I think it escaped from Trump's Chinese lab. That's what I think happened.
Wuhan. All right, so here we go. We have got a lot in the headlines, and I think we wanted to first start with, is it spring has sprung for Macy's, or is this turnaround 4.0? It's almost like we talked about, could it be the Matrix? You took the red or the blue pill. Is it the Fast and Furious Part 8? We don't know, but here's what we're breaking down. Macy's outlined what their plan is for their turnaround. And I think there's some things that we've seen before. It strengthened the nameplate, which really meant we're going to close a bunch of stores that are unproductive, accelerate luxury growth, and then simplify and modernize the end-to-end operations. Rick, what are you thinking?
Look, I'm thinking, how many times have we seen this movie? Like, it seems like every 3 years, like clockwork, Macy's has a bold new vision. As it was, the last CEO leaves, new CEO comes in. The bold new vision is to get smaller, faster. And so Macy's has 500 stores. They're going to close 150 of them. So apparently addition by subtraction.
That's right. And on the luxury piece, look, they have Blue Mercury, they have Bloomingdale's. Is there a real differentiation, though, in the Macy's portfolio that can help them go up against some other luxury players in this space?
Yes, I think those two brands are actually good brands. The Macy's brand itself is a different question. Like, why does someone walk into a Macy's anymore? They're trying the Target strategy and the Bed Bath and Beyond, pour out some liquor for those guys strategy. Private labels. Who cares about the Macy's private labels when you have 150 million products on Shein?
You also have Temu coming up. You have a lot of brands on Amazon. If I just go to Amazon and I type in Lululemon, whatever the style is, knockoff, I'm littered with lots of different options. So what is Macy's going to provide that's really different? I think that's the question that we're all asking.
100%. I'm not sure what it is. The next item in the news is Klaviyo. They reported Q4 2023 and full year earnings. They're up to $700 million in revenue, which is pretty impressive growth, 48% year over year at about a 70% gross margin. A few things they predicted in 2024. This year, they're going to grow 28% year over year. So the growth is slowing, and they're introducing an SMS product that's already penetrated 16% of their customer base.
They're leveraging bots right? We've got lots of bots in the Klaviyo.
AI is it's huge.
I heard the robots are winning. They're introducing these new ways to help grow and scale. What do you think? Is Klaviyo on the right trajectory?
Yeah, look, I think particularly their progress in the mid-market has been pretty impressive. They had something like 88% growth in customers paying them over $50,000 a year, which is way better growth than either Shopify or BigCommerce. One of the biggest challenges with the model now is like their next big product is SMS, but the margins on SMS like can't be great.
One of the things you called out in your LinkedIn post, which is always a wealth of knowledge, I think it's they did not lose, or it's hard to tell. Like, did they lose money?
It's unclear. We're not talking about actual profits. We're talking about fairy dust profits. So we're just going to leave that to the side. Next up, we have Overstock. And so it's clear that Overstock hearts Shopify. So I'm trying to follow the Overstock saga the last few years. They bought the remains of Bed Bath & Beyond, and they said they were going to rename themselves to Beyond.com. Psych, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep Overstock around. Overstock is going to move to Shopify, which that's got to be Shopify's biggest customer, right?
Yeah, for sure, bigger than Mr. Beast. Bigger, which is
the famous enterprise brand, Mr. Beast.
The famous enterprise brand, Mr. Beast. But I think also it's really interesting because Overstock has a lot of SKUs, and Shopify hasn't necessarily gone into a space with. I'm trying to think of a client that they have that's going to have the breadth of that catalog, managing under that ecosystem. And it'll be really interesting, I think, to see that play out. And, was Overstock just trying to get off tech debt? What we heard from their CEO, hey, it was a mistake. We shouldn't have said bye-bye to the Overstock brand. Is this like another era of, remember old school Wayfair and Hayneedle, where they had brands, basically furniture.com, hammocks.com.
Yeah.
It was like, is this like an SEO play? What's going to be the position? It'll be interesting.
The SEO of that website was pretty amazing. The chairman of the board of Overstock is now none other than Marcus Lemonis, the CNBC celebrity turnaround guy. And now I guess he's going to turn around Overstock. People, process, profit. I don't know. He said it was a huge mistake to shut that down. And we'll see if that's right. I mean, look, Overstock, if you translate it into French, it means schlock. It means like there's a lot of junk on there, and it's a lot of junk that's the same as everyone else. So I think they still have a merchandise issue.
I think so too. Here's where I'll leave it though. They are very, very good at SEO and always have been. And I think that's what's helped them out. Yes, it is a lot of the same things. Again, it's another place Amazon's going after. It's a place that Shein and Temu will go after, as it's just a land grab to get more and more products, more and more market share, more and more categories. And the home and garden category is huge. So it'll be for sure interesting to see, will this new Shopify evolution be the
Shopstock?
Yeah, Shopstock. So, all right, I got one more for you. Over the pond for their IPO. They're going to move it from New York to London. And really, it's not a shocker. They anticipated the SEC will not approve its application. A little bit sad. They also are considering Hong Kong or Singapore as potential IPO locations. So I think if we roll the tape back to the Me, You, Hendrick episode, when I said it was going to be a little bit dicey, I might be passing my crow feathers over to you guys.
There you go. There, we can eat some of your crow now. That's good.
All right.
Next up on the agenda is Amazon and Shopify. So maybe the rebels are actually more well-funded than you think. Shopify last year, $236 billion in GMV. Amazon was just estimated by the marketplace Pulse, $700 billion in GMV. I was doing the calculations on how long it will take to Shopify to cross Amazon GMV, which is kind of a stupid exercise, but hey, why not? The whole show is kind of stupid. By 2036, the Shopify will cross Amazon GMV at the current growth levels. Will it happen or not happen?
Yeah. I think they've got a great trajectory. Look, there's nothing that is slowing Shopify down. You've got Harley like cheerleader number one, first of all. You've got really, everyone knows Shopify essentially as the ecosystem, the place to play. And you've said this before. We've seen it. They're not done in terms of the other avenues that they can open up and unlock for revenue growth. It's not just going to be subscriptions. There's more opportunity there. So I'm calling it. Yes, they've got the trajectory way.
That is a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it works out for them.
I'm going to stand by it. I'll stand by it, and we can roll the tape again. So
I love it.
All right.
All right. Well, look, first up on our stories, we're going to be talking about the exploding company itself, Thrasio. And look, it's been a story of dueling headlines this week. One headline says that Thrasio is reimagining strengthening its financial position to position itself for future growth. The other headline said,
I think
which headline do you think is more realistic?
We have the headline of they're reinventing themselves. We have the headline of the Michael Scott walking into the office bullpen saying, "I declare bankruptcy." So Ken would break it down for us. What are these two stories?
This is a company that raised $3.4 billion. They were valued at $5 to $10 billion. The debt was now $500 million. And on top of all of that, you declare bankruptcy. So look, acquiring Amazon businesses. Let's recap how that works. You don't own the real estate. You don't own the customer. You don't own the data. You don't control the playing field.
This seems like a great idea. Make Charter Club happen. Quit making bad business models happen. Look, the underlying theme of why these aggregators were supposed to work is you acquire a bunch of companies, you're able to get scale, you're able to cross-sell. To your point, Rick, when you don't own the customer, you can't own the cross-sale. And we know Amazon not likey. Let me throw the advert for my homeboys over here, my next brand, in a box. Like, it's not happening, especially when you're doing it through FBA. So how are they really going to cross-sell and get the benefits of the scale of the 500 brands that they acquired?
Yeah, it's really unsure what's happening here. I mean, there was a thread on LinkedIn, and we'll pull it up here. And there's still a lot of apologists to this model. It's like, if they're selling off their brands, I'm buying. Buying what? That is a great question. Boy, this business is so mature that they're declaring bankruptcy. Yeah, they're mature in that, like, mature meaning ripe. That's a good mature. There's a lot of IP left in Thrasio, and people seem to love this idea. And now people are talking about Michael Scott and The Office, Dwight Schrute. Look, I don't understand what's there. And there are a lot of people still apologizing for these businesses. Here's a lesson. It's very hard to do business on Amazon. And if you're two investors and you think you can acquire the right Amazon businesses, let me just cut to the chase for you. You're probably wrong. It's not going to work out well, because experienced Amazon operators that have been doing it for 20 years, they find it hard to do business. So how do you do that and really do that profitably?
Yeah. And I think the answer is you can't. And this isn't the last business. This is the first business in this aggregator community that's gone out. This won't be the last. And you cannot build your business on the backbone of a marketplace where you don't control the stakes. So I think we're ready to close the door on Thrasio, and we'll see if this is the last.
Yeah, somebody will pick them up. Apparently, there's a whole LinkedIn comment thread of people who want to buy their old businesses. My advice is do not buy them. So let's think about that. Yeah, look, in terms of guests, we have a great guest coming up. It's actually your friend and mine, Aaron Sheehan. Let me tell you a few things about Aaron. Aaron is a Navy man. He sailed the 7 seas, I think. Well, he'll tell us. He spent time at one of the best named agencies you could ever come up with Classy Llama. That's who was his entry into e-commerce, which is a sort of a famous Magento agency back in the day, and still around. He went through the mid-market or enterprise company, BigCommerce, and now he co-founded a consultancy, Bald Commerce, and is at Oro Commerce now as their director of product marketing. Also, huge Louisiana fan, so props to my New Orleans buddy, Aaron Sheehan, everyone.
Yay! Welcome.
So happy to be here. So happy to be here. There are dozens of us, right? Louisiana folk in
100%.
commerce. Yeah. Good to be here. Long time listener, first time caller.
Awesome. Did you do any sailing? That's
I did.
my
I
first
did quite a
question
lot.
for you.
Actually, I spent more time at sea than I did on land when I was in the Navy. So yep.
That's
You
impressive.
were not far off. Yeah. I had the good fortune to enlist in 2002, and I showed up to boot camp in 2003, and I was there in boot camp when President George Bush announced that we were doing Operation Desert Storm 2 Electric Boogaloo. And so we were all like standing at attention at formation, getting ready to graduate. They put him on the projector and like, guess what? You're all going over there. And so that was, so yeah, I spent a lot of time, gone.
Wow.
That is serious. So look, the topic we brought you in to talk about is the mid-market. What the heck is it?
What's that?
I don't know. I was hoping that you could tell me.
At BigCommerce, we didn't really explore it very much because we were an enterprise company, and so I don't really. You can put some guardrails around this term for me, Rick?
I see. Look, interesting, and I can cue it up. Maybe my producer can help me. Mark Friedman and I wrote a report on this recently on the journey of the mid-market merchant, and we talked about, look, what are the things that classify the mid-market? And it's not just revenue. And we talked about things, 10 million to 250 million in revenue, but not just that, because there's a lot of people that could be $50 million and have 10 SKUs, and their needs aren't that complex. But if you're in multiple locations, if you have a complicated catalog, if you're, have your own stores, or maybe you're a multi-brand setup, and you have different customer experiences that maybe can't be represented by standard templates. To me, that's some of the starting points. I don't know, Jess, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, being on the B2B side when I was there, we all had our own definitions of what mid-market was or wasn't. I think you hit it all on the head. The only other thing I will add is I think you're mid-market and you need scale, right? And that's kind of where we bring in like different types of solutions, different types of SaaS software. And those are my favorite businesses to work with, because a lot of times they don't necessarily have everything figured out. They've got the bones and the foundation, and they just kind of need something else to help take them to the next level. And I think that's the other part. Like, do you have a good business model and you just need help with scale?
And that's what Thrasio is there, right? Then you get acquired and roll.
They're going to help you scale.
They're going to help you scale. Yeah, that's the golden ticket.
Yeah, bankruptcy faster, Thrasio. It's a new tagline. Look, in terms of the mid-market, look, the classic, to me, one of the classic mid-market models in the last 20 years in e-commerce is Demandware. They really invented the mid-market of SaaS. A lot of companies didn't think SaaS could run decent-sized e-commerce businesses until Demandware came around. They IPO'd over 10 years ago. And I went back to their press release, and I just looked at the name, then I cataloged them. And I think you corrected me on one of these. It's on Centra. That should be somewhere that I think I said was custom, which is totally fine. Because these things change around, and particularly if you're a headless platform, as my friend Kelly knows, it's impossible to categorize a headless platform because there's no tagging on the front end to know who's doing it. But in the meantime, most of these are still on Salesforce. What do you make of that?
I mean, I make of it that Salesforce is giving it away for free, and they're desperate to retain the logos. I mean, some of it's just inertia. CEOs would rather gnaw off their own arm rather than re-platform. I think that's part of it. It's the complexity of the exercise, And what's funny to me though is how many of those customers are using other Salesforce clouds? How many of those people are exact target customers? How many of those people are using the other bits of it? I mean, Sales Cloud? I don't know. So what's the attraction? What's keeping those people tied to the Salesforce logo? It's not the promise of the greater portfolio, I don't think. It's not all of the extra clouds. So my guess is it's still a good platform, and it's also incredibly dirt cheap for them right now because those are the logos that Salesforce uses to go win more logos. So
yeah, that or they're locked into a 5-year agreement. One of those two answers.
Well, I mean, why not? Yes.
Yeah,
why
I think
not both?
there's the both and.
Yeah.
What you said, it is really difficult to go on that endeavor, and in terms of the re-platform. And if your tech ain't really broke, do you have to fix it? So I guess the question is also how broke is the tech?
It's not. Well, that's the thing is it's aging, but is it broke? I don't know. It's expensive. It's expensive, and I think the thing that would be interesting to find out is how many of those people are still on Site Genesis, right? The original sort of like version. There's been so many new frameworks of Salesforce Commerce Cloud released, and they're still not done, I think, reinventing it.
Over 1,000 brands, I'm sure, are still on
go
the
watch
old
Dreamforce videos. And are these brands along for the ride? Are they evolving as Salesforce evolves their commerce tech? Or are they still on V1? Because to your earlier point, they're not interested in changing.
Well, and does the customer really know the difference, right? Or if the shopping experience is fundamentally there, and you can get from, navigation to a category page to a product page to checkout, has it done its job? What's it really missing?
Good question.
This is a good comment here.
So Linda Bustos, actually formerly of Elastic Path, she ran the famous Go Elastic blog for years. Demandware won the omnichannel retailer, and they're kind of stuck without comparable options. Has Shopify closed that gap yet? I think a lot of people would say yes, particularly for your typical direct-to-consumer business. A lot of former Demandware customers would say yes, because if you look at a logo slide from a typical agency, a lot of those people are now plus brands. If they're highways between one platform and another, and which highways are going out of town, which highways are going in town. To me, the most heavily traveled highway in e-commerce today is the highway out of the Salesforce town into the Shopify town. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I think for the omnichannel piece, the one bit that's missing is OMS. Shopify doesn't have an answer for that, but there are a lot of other platforms and products that do. And so maybe it's a split highway. Some of those operations are moving away from Salesforce and into Shopify, but then they're off RFP and RFP land for other pieces. And that's composable, as Mock Alliance member Rick Watson is a big fan of, is composability and picking best of breed solutions. So
100%, always best of breed. Look, how many vendors can survive in the mid-market is my question. Like, look, Jess, you're at a retailer.
Mm-hmm.
How do you evaluate these things?
We have a lot as a legacy retailer, right? There's lots of different tech that you have, and you keep evolving it. In a retailer of our size as well, you can't also think about testing also the newest, shiniest thing, right? You've got to have some wherewithal. You've got to have some brand recognition, and you have also scenarios of like some retailers, you don't want to be the first mover. And so I think that the challenge a lot of these mid-market companies have is there's the technology, and is it kept up? There's also can you appeal to an enterprise retailer of certain sizes, right, and do it successfully? And then people are wanting more of the best of breed solutions. And so you don't want to get locked into this whole ecosystem, if you will, where you can only kind of work within that ecosystem that exists, like in a Demandware scenario.
You bring up a good point about trust as part of your answer. It's like you want to avoid lock-in. Another company that a lot of people evaluated in the last couple of years is, can I pour out some liquor? Are they still around? Fabric? Are they a platform, or what are they?
They're an OMS. Didn't Chico's put all their brands recently on Fabric? They got a logo now. Like that.
At least the OMS or the PIM, one of the two. Chico's is sold off. They
What do you see when you're talking to different companies? You're talking to brands or retailers. You've been in this industry a really long time. Where have you seen that decision evolve? Has it gotten harder? Because it feels like the buying cycles, at least what I hear, have gotten longer. The decision points have gotten tougher, and sometimes by the time you get to a decision, the group you've worked with is left already. So I'm curious, like, what have you seen in like that evolution?
I would say we have a mid-market vendor landscape in e-commerce that is left over from when a commerce functionality was not a big commodity, but unfortunately it's a big commodity now. And so the pressure, like if you think back 7-8 years, commerce platforms, a lot of them didn't even have responsive themes, right? The mobile revolution forced a lot of sudden like adoption of new tech, and that was urgent. There was dollars that were leaking out, because people had experiences that weren't compatible with the way more and more shoppers were wanting to buy.
Right.
What's the current pressure sort of like forcing that kind of adoption? And so if you think about it, Magento, Demandware, BigCommerce, Shopify, Shopware, like all of those platforms have basically a relatively comparable set of functionality. It's only in very specific pieces of it, specific channels and specific use cases that you then start getting into, oh God, I need to re-platform because of some reason. So what I'm seeing is you used to see re-platforms every 3 years. I used to see them all the time. Now it's more like 5 years, sometimes 7 years. And to your earlier point, that Demandware IPO was 2016, Rick? And all those people are still on it. Like, that was a long time ago. Like, there's just not the impetus. I think there's nothing technologically driving it. Who remembers conversational commerce?
Isn't that AI now?
Yeah, AI what though? Just AI in general? Like,
it's not going to make you re-platform, right?
No, it's not, because for lots of reasons. And so there's not. I think that we have too many vendors because that are left over, sort of lurching, like zombies into the daylight. But there's not enough reason for all of them to exist because they're not enough differentiated. There's not enough differentiation. How about that?
So there's not enough differentiation. Sales cycles are getting longer. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? I mean, this sounds like a terrible market to be, yet companies keep entering the market. You have Shopware entering the market from Germany. You have commerce tools that entered the market from Germany in the past couple of years. You have VTEX, which is enter the market from South America. And so why?
Zerp a few years ago, it was really cheap to get money, like not too long ago. There was a big IPO boom. Lots of companies IPO'd.
The US is a siren song market, though. Like, it's the market that if you're in a smaller country and you're like, look how much GMV is in the US, you have to tackle it. It just seems like the siren song. Like, everyone who's in Asia Pac or EU or any smaller market, which is most of them, they want to come to the US. And look, I don't blame them. The challenge with the US market is it's such a monoculture. And it tends to like be a winner take all market where the top player always takes 80%. The next player takes 15%. The next player takes 3%. And everyone else is fighting for 2%.
You're not wrong. But I mean, go back to everybody. But I think people are thinking, if I can get that 10%, given how sticky those accounts are now, if people aren't re-platforming, if I can get 10% of a huge market and defend it, that could be a business.
That's right. So these niche players in the Gartner quadrant, which I don't know if we want to talk about Gartner quadrants for a second. Like, you're a big fan of those.
I loved that podcast, by the way. You breaking it down.
Thank you. Shout out to Future Commerce.
Why don't you give us a recap on what that was about?
Well, so friends of mine, Philip and Brian over at Future Commerce, running another commerce and culture media empire that they're building over there. Full disclosure, Brian Lane, co-founder, he was a coworker of mine at Classy Llama back in the day. So we all come full circle to
there you
Llama.
It's
but
e-commerce.
Gardening enthusiast. I love to garden.
I like it. Yes.
I love to grow things. I think it was a demystifying it for an audience, because everybody sees the picture. Right. If you Google it, that's all. Let's be real. I think that's all most of us do. Is like
no one reads anything.
Nobody reads it because it's expensive to read, or you've got to go give your email to one of those mid-market vendors that Rick like hates so much. And then now you're on their email list and they're sending you all their case studies, or the same 3 case studies over and over again. And so if everybody just sees that, what's the methodology behind it? What's the thought part? Who is it for? Who is it for? How did they build it? And what's the game? And there's a sort of like a midwit kind of like, well, it's just pay to play, like everybody knows, to quote Leonard Cohen, everybody knows, right? Like, and I was just having a conversation with Philip one day about this, and he was like, I think that would be good content, because that's what we call it now, is content.
Everyone doesn't know.
Everyone doesn't know. Now there's good and bad. Like, I have mixed feelings about the whole analyst piece. I think each firm does their own thing. Vinny, you would ask how many vendors on the IDC assessment. Exactly. Like, IDC, went and talked to like a ton of people for that, and have a different methodology than Gartner does, which is a different methodology than Forrester has. So like, we kind of group them all together and call them all Gartner, but that's not exactly right. But yeah, that's how that came to be. I certainly can go on at great length, but I highly recommend you go to Future Commerce and listen to the episode if you're.
Look, there are 26 people on the quadrant. People only look at the picture; they don't read it. Sounds like someone should make a TikTok video about it, and then somebody would listen to it.
Oh, I don't have TikTok, but one of you guys should.
You're not on the talk?
I'm not on the talk. No.
Quadrant talk. That we could start a
Quadrant talk.
I'm making it happen. No one take my thunder.
All right, manifest it. Manifest it, Jess.
Manifest it. Yes, but I need you to come on with me, because I think
okay. I got you. As long as I don't have to like do a dance or something, we're fine.
Oh, we do love dancing on this show.
Exactly. We were talking about Klaviyo before, which is making a lot of progress in the actual mid-market, as opposed to some other companies which aren't in the mid-market.
Using that word, I do not think it means what you think it means.
Right. As you wish.
Yes.
And so, look, the Shopify ecosystem is very interesting. If you look back in e-commerce history, most companies would just acquire all the things, and then those acquisitions would get tired and old. Look at Salesforce acquiring ExactTarget. Look at Oracle acquiring ATG, and then all the search engines, and Salesforce acquiring these different things. Shopify has acquired little. They've chosen instead to invest.
This is the deliberate ratio right here.
We invest in Klaviyo. That's our email marketing platform. That didn't work out, but you can't win them all.
Apparently. So that's the question, is with Klaviyo. Klaviyo? How do you say it, by the way?
It's Klaviyo, I think.
Klaviyo.
So like, I don't even they know. Yeah, no, I mean, I think they definitely won the mid-market for sure. It's crazy though, because I've never seen the exposure, like one SaaS company being so dependent on another SaaS company. And I go back and forth in my mind over whether or not that's a good thing. But I do, they built their CDP, like Klaviyo 1, and then it vanished for like, 18 months? Like, they launched it, I remember, like years ago, and I think it was NRF maybe, and then it was like radio silent. And then it just popped back up again, I think, last year. So it looks like maybe they hadn't fully baked, and they wanted to figure out, like, what is the CDP?
Yeah,
so
look, I'm sure it's not a coincidence after their IPO. Like, look, now we got to show some growth. Look, Klaviyo, 78% exposure to Shopify.
That's crazy.
It's rough.
That's crazy. So what is Shopify's playbook in this when this happens, typically? What do they do? What does the history tell us? What is Toby's go-to?
Look, I think I know what you're getting at, but I don't know if I agree. Like, they're not killing off categories. The one place they're killing off categories is checkout, right? Like, look, Shopify wants to own the checkout, and they really slap down Bolt and POS, all those guys.
Maybe. I mean,
payments.
So if you go talk to people in the Shopify app ecosystem, there are a lot more stories of not necessarily entire categories in terms of like what you'd have a quadrant built around, but like pieces of functionality that got really successful, and then Shopify basically kicked them off the platform and built their own version, or acquired them, entirely. Headless now, right? They've got hydrogen and oxygen. There's a lot of stuff that gets audiences, right? That was an acquisition. Like there's history, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of history, but that's the platform business. It's just like Colonel Jessup in A Few Good Men. Is like, I would rather you say thank you for the opportunity to be on my platform. You need me on this wall. I don't know. I'm going somewhere with this.
Ecosystem. Yeah. Can I ask a question going back to, because I think this is, we kind of danced around it. You talked about there's not a lot of differentiation. Can you get differentiation in mid-market?
Yes.
What will be the thing? What's the lever? What's the avenue to go after to really find yourself?
Well, I'm working for one of them, right? Setup, Jess. Like, so no, I think B2B is one of them, to be honest. One of the things I've seen for years now is that every B2C platform wants to also be a B2B platform because they all realized how much money there was over there and how underserved that market was. And what you've had is you've had a lot of fold, spindle, and mutilating of B2C platforms to try to make them work for like giant cart sizes and have like chart of accounts and have big orders and like a totally different payment system. Shopify is trying to do this right now, and I don't think it's going to work, candidly, but BigCommerce is doing it. Magento did it, and is still working on that. Salesforce is like starting and Cloud Craze, and then like B2B on Lightning, and now that's part of the CP. I don't know what's going on over there, but like there's a lot of people. Shopware, Optimizely. Well, you mean Episerver? So like, I never heard of this Optimize. That's an A/B testing platform, right?
Right.
So you talk about like taking brand equity and just flushing it. Like, I think B2B is a big place where you can go because the use case is unique enough that you can build differentiation with all those mid-market players. Because Rick, in your Shopware report, all of those platforms that you listed were B2C platforms, or maybe they might call themselves multi-channel platforms, but really are B2C platforms. Like, let's be real. So there's definitely space over there. I think that's one place, and I think another one is what I would say is I don't want to call it social commerce because I feel dirty saying social commerce, but that's sort of like that channel-rich selling environment where you're selling on multiple platforms, and really it's what it really is PIM. Like really organizing product data and then selling on TikTok Shop, selling on Meta, selling on all of the different, on Amazon, on Shein, and all of them. I wish they would change their name, by the way, because having the last name Sheehan and then having you keep saying Sheehan is like very confusing to me. Shine. We're just going to do that. We're going to say Shine.
Oh, okay.
Let's make it.
Rebranding companies right before they go for their over the pond.
For their IPO, I'm declaring it.
You are declaring it. Aaron, there's probably so much we could talk about. I think we could go forever with you in this back and forth. And really, I just like seeing you and Rick go head to head. So thank you so much for being here. You're one of our favorites. I remember the Classy Llama. Just again, pour one out for the it was amazing. So you guys you're fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. And we are going to have to bring you back to unpack the next evolution of the mid-market journey.
Looking forward to it. Thanks all, and cheers.
Awesome. Love it.
We're going to try to get to this next part pretty quick. We got some punchiness happening in the happiness index, or maybe the happiness hangover. I thought it'd be helpful if you guys could see some new insights on what customers are or are not buying. Rick, I know you always love to dive into this. So McKinsey did a survey and they wanted to look at Q4 to Q1. Where are the differences in terms of what customers are investing in or where they're spending? And our friend Vinny's going to help pull up some slides here. People are going to spend more on essentials. So that's kind of one of the headlines from the survey. Things like pet food supplies, meat and dairy, baby supplies, all of these goods going to keep it going. People are back, still kind of kicking on the dry train, I guess. So non-alcoholic beverages spiking up. I want to meet these people who can say dry January all year round. All right, we'll go to the next slide.
I would like to understand who stops buying baby supplies.
I don't know.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
It does not. It does not. Also, New Year's resolutions is more powerful ultimately than inflation. So fitness and wellness still kicking it as it does every year when you have your new year, new you. So that was an insight. Again, not shocking, toys down. So when you compare Q4 to Q1, not a surprise. Skincare and makeup back up, personal care, hygiene wins. So people still spending on hygiene. There is hope for a few new categories. People looking at, maybe they don't want to buy the whole outfit, but they're ready to like refresh some accessories. You've got electronic, Best Buy saying, hey, we think electronics is back. We got a good outlook for 2024. And the McKinsey data would validate that. Consumers saying they're ready to buy either for home or personal use in electronics. So they're ready to spend money on those purchases. This is even after the Super Bowl. So interesting. People are still trading down, not shocking. And I call it this, we're in our trade down era for the Swifties. Millennials and, Gen Zers, not surprising, more likely to trade down than your boomers. So I think we've got one more data point here. If not, I'll kind of summarize it. I think the reality here is groceries. I didn't think people were getting wild in the cheese aisle or getting turned in the dairy category, in the dairy aisle, but apparently that's happening because all generations, and you can cut this data by millennials, you can cut it by Gen Zers, boomers. Everybody is saying groceries are their biggest splurge. And really what's happening, if you unpack it, it's not just because inflation and people spend more. It's literally people saying, hey, I can save more money. I can splurge on a nice, round of brie cheese instead of buying the dollar, grocery store, Kroger brand or Costco brand. And I can cook a nice meal at home, hang out, and save some money from the restaurant. So that's what we got for you. Another forecast is travel is looking up. So more people actually spending on travel than some of these other categories, which isn't surprising as we're getting ready for spring break, we're getting ready for spring travel, and people are just ready to get out. So that's the latest.
That's amazing. I love to see that. And this is actually making me feel incrementally better about the economy. So I guess that's good. Hey. I didn't end on a happiness hangover.
Oh, I love it, right? Because I think the last time I talked, or maybe it was 2 times ago, I think we went into the fetal position and we're back. We always try to keep it light and fun. So I'm glad you wrapped the bandage around and picked yourself up. We're ready to go.
Exactly. I appreciate that. We're kind of wrapping up our stories here. We need to bring our guest back on because you know what's about to happen next.
Aaron? Yeah. Rick? Jess?
See your dance. Why am I here? Go for it. I'm going to do the hook. Reeling you in.